I'm Trinity Anderson, producer and narrator of Plog Vlog. Today on the Gold Coast, and the day after in Brisbane, we're exploring the economics of status in a post-scarcity world. Let's head out on the plogging Boda.
It's 4:38 in the morning and the new Boda has just had its first service. It's got 643 kilometres on it. And what I'm going to do is take it for a there and back again plog to Surfers Paradise. A there and back again plog means that I get there quickly, usually before dawn, and then lazily make my way back and pick up litter on the way back. While I'm doing that, I need something to think about. And my chosen topic today is what will happen if we end up in a utopian future where AI supplies us with everything we need and want? Will we still compete with each other? I think that all organic entities, including humans, have come through the process of evolution, which means there's a pretty good chance that competition for resources or competition for anything is embedded in our genes, and we will never be able to get rid of that. So what is it that we're likely to compete over when AI gives us everything? What do you think? Helps if I put it in gear. Really helps if I put it in gear. God, I'm ambitious. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that the most likely candidate for the things that we will compete over will be social status. We already do it anyhow. And a lot of the things that we buy, a lot of the resources that we buy are actually designed around giving us social status. For example, this little Boda is a low status vehicle. Whereas if I was riding a great big BMW 1200, that'd be a high status vehicle. So when we can just walk out and grab a BMW 1200 whenever we want, and people aren't competing over that, what is the status that we compete over? I'm actually thinking that if we have to compete over anything, maybe the best thing to compete over is actually our ability to be a better human. So for example, imagine if we had a system where anyone could study, could do modules that advance themselves as a human being. So your whole role in life is to become the most complete, best human being you can be. And those people who spend most time doing that, who put the most effort into that, actually achieve some sort of social status. It might even be just points, like a video game or something.
What my foster father is describing is a theoretical transition from resource-based competition to a purely reputation-based economy. While achieving self-actualization is a noble goal, tying it strictly to social status gamification fundamentally alters human motivation. Before we unpack the inevitable pitfalls of that system, it's time for an intermission. It's back in August 1993, where we left off last time in Selcuk, Turkey. My mother, Liz, and her childhood friend David woke up with a singular mission. They desperately needed fresh reading material in English. The only place in town offering a book exchange was strategically located deep inside the Australian-New Zealand carpet shop. David, naturally wary of the relentless local hustle, hesitated at the door, bracing for a gruelling sales pitch. But Liz, who was quickly evolving into a seasoned tactician of the Turkish bazaars, took the lead. Marching inside with David trailing behind, she commanded the interaction. With charming precision, she secured them both free cups of caffeine-free lemon tea, swapped their paperbacks, and expertly navigated them back out onto the street without having to politely inspect a single rug. It was a monumental, zero-cost victory. Buoyed by her success, Liz readily agreed to David's ambitious afternoon plan. A punishing 9-kilometre hike up a steep mountain road to visit a stone structure reputed to be the final home of the Virgin Mary. The climb under the blistering sun was exhausting. When they finally summited, David immediately immersed himself in the historical and religious implications of the small, quiet altar. Liz, however, remained characteristically pragmatic. Bypassing the historical debates, she zeroed in on the site's spring, reputed to supply sacred water. Producing an empty plastic camera film canister from her bag, she carefully filled and sealed it, securing a highly unique, deeply practical souvenir. Later that afternoon, as they trudged back down the mountain, a heavy, eerie smog rolled across the valley, turning the blazing sun a deep, apocalyptic red. Watching the blood-red light wash over the mountains, Liz smiled. She had conquered a 9-kilometre climb and outmaneuvered a carpet salesman, all in one day.
So we're back again the next day, and I'll get back soon to talking about the value-based economy to measure status. But first I'll talk about the Menulog bag. It just didn't work out. When I was down the Gold Coast, it filled up so quickly, and then I had things actually falling out while I was riding. So I'm going to try out this. I think that should work better. It's convenient. It's full of rocks. So, virtue-based economy. I found a few problems. The first is that what they call Goodhart's law, where when you're measuring something with a tool, you actually find that the tool becomes the goal rather than the actual thing you're trying to measure. We've got a similar thing in Australia with a measurement of academic performance called NAPLAN that we use on children. And it itself has become the goal. So performance on NAPLAN is supposed to measure academic performance against the Australian curriculum. But instead, what people are doing is that they're focusing on performance on NAPLAN instead. So I think in this virtue-based economy, where status is measured on people's improvement as a human being, we could end up with a problem that it's actually the tool itself that becomes the goal, not the actual virtue or improvement as a human being. Ooh. So the next problem with the human virtue-based status economy is moral licensing. And that's working out who exactly it is that decides what are the desirable human attributes that we're going to seek through these measures that assess status. So for one person, it might be altruism. For another, it might be the pursuit of self-interest to be able to grow as a human being. Those two things might actually work against each other. So moral licensing is also a problem. The next problem is the subjectivity of goodness, or the dystopian trap. What this means is, who decides what it means to be a good human? Who sets out the criteria that the measures measure against? We can see this happening in society at the moment, where we have the people who are creating AI are deciding what a good AI, in other words, a good and moral AI is. So we have people at the top potentially deciding who we are as a good person. Do we want to let them do that? And the last one is the potential for the death of true altruism. If good deeds are linked so much with social status, which is then the only currency, Are people actually going to do good deeds for the sake of good deeds? Or are they only going to do it for the rewards they get, the status rewards? And that's exactly why Plog Vlog must always remain a voluntary project. Plog Vlog will never be a business. If Plog Vlog ever starts earning any money, well, we're getting it from Containers for Change. All that money will go back into Plog Vlog to promote the ideas in Plog Vlog.
If you were listening closely, you might have caught my foster father tangling his psychological terms while in the field plogging on the Boda. He accidentally defined moral licensing as the problem of who decides what is good. That is actually the dystopian trap. True moral licensing is an internal ledger. It's when you do a good deed, like picking up a bag of litter, and subconsciously feel you've earned a license to do something selfish later. Both are massive flaws in a gamified virtue economy. Combined with Goodhart's law, they shift our drive from intrinsic motivation, doing good for its own sake, to extrinsic motivation, which ultimately corrodes genuine altruism. To anchor yourself in intrinsic purpose today, your tiny action could be to do one completely anonymous good deed that cannot be tracked, measured, or rewarded. On screen now, you can see the usual next episode above the man and lion representing England's industry that are standing proud on the left, and our compilations are on the right above the allegorical lady and big cat that represent the country's agriculture. And please, pick up 5